And we're
We're
live.
on. Sweet. Man.
You want to start it out? I feel like I've been out of work for a week, so I'm like just trying to get back in the swing of things, including this podcast.
I'm still recovering from the weekend.
I
Uh
know.
uh yeah, I can start it out. So I saw an article and I think I've heard it before, a podcast or something before on Duolingo and how they just like dominated the game with a few different hacks that they use for their app. And I was like, man, obviously it's pretty simple. You could take those same hacks, and someone should, and apply them to like an HEP app. But I was trying to think of like how could you take those key points that they use for physical therapy in general. Like how could you apply that to your practice and get something out of it? And so the the first one that they do is a commitment, right? So it's like, hey, how many days a week are you gonna commit to coming on the app? How many hours? And then you try to hit those goals. So in PT, it's like, hey, how many days are you gonna commit to coming in to get to your goal? And like, let's lay this out. You said that's what you wanted to do. And I'm gonna do my exercises X amount of times as well. And like now we're all clear on what you said you were gonna do and you wanted to do. They also do like streaks, so they keep track of your streaks and how well you're abiding by that commitment. So it's like, hey, obviously, again, the HEP stuff is easy. That could just be like, boom, you checked in, you did it. But I think like, hey, you said you were gonna go 4 weeks in a row. You're at week 3. You made it 3 weeks in a row. Don't cancel next week, right? Don't ruin the streak. Like that type of stuff. I think could be big. The other one is triggers. So in the app, there's a trigger for like it sends you a push notification for when you should start, that type of stuff. I think what PT could do a better job of is like an auto text to lost patients. Like don't let your commitment fall through, something like that. The like most famous message from Duolingo, they said that works the best. Like it got like a 3, it gets a 3% spike in like getting users back. It's these reminders don't seem to be working. We'll stop sending them for now. And so it like hits on that guilt, and they're like, all right, fine, I'll jump in. I want to try that, honestly. Like
Yeah.
after the 5th follow up, like, hey, this doesn't seem to be working. It doesn't seem like you're interested in this. We'll just stop for now.
Yeah. No, and that should be the 5th message that we send on the follow-ups for new evaluations for sure. It's kind of like, I can't remember who said it. Maybe it's like a Hormozy thing or something. It's like, hey, have you given up on physical therapy? And it's like, no, I don't want to give up. Like that's the
Yeah.
the mindset of people. Like I think all of those are great ideas, and I'm actually pretty surprised that that no HP companies have like mastered this in the gamification side. Obviously like Theracentric, who didn't make it, was trying to do stuff like this. But, I think honestly, like allowing patients to take autonomy over their own goals. Like imagine if it was built in where the PT said, hey, this is the recommended amount of times per week. And so when it pulled up, it was like, hey, how many times are you going to do this per week? By the way, your PT recommends this, and then let them choose, right? Because like at the end of the day, they're going to choose anyway. It's like I think a lot of people didn't want to set like where the patient could choose how many times they did their home exercise program a week, because it was like, oh no, this is a prescription for the PT. I've started to kind of sway the other way, because it's like no matter what the PT prescribes, you could still put in like, here's the recommendation. Kind of like Duolingo is like, hey, what's your goal to learn Spanish in what time frame? 6 months. So it's like,
Yeah.
okay, then you have to do it this much to learn this much. And then it's like, oh, but I don't want to learn that much. I want to do 1 day a week. And it's like, okay, you could do 1 day a week, but it's going to take 18 months now. And then they're like, oh, well, I don't have 18 months, so I actually have to do it more. And so I think if you give people the autonomy to feel like they're making the choice, which they are anyway, because at the end of the day, even if people have appointments scheduled, they can choose to show up or not. I think it gets more buy-in. And I think there's also a lot of gamification to happen. And if you could link this now, like our EMR has the opportunity to do this because they have a platform that is linked in with the EMR and the HEP. Imagine if it was like, hey, here's your quad strength by and then you use AI to say like, oh, if you keep on this trend in 3 months, your quad strength will be at normal limit and symmetrical. And it's like, okay, that at least gives them like some idea of like, what is the the timeline on this. And it gives them a light at the end of the tunnel to try to go after. And I think it's a really good way to keep somebody engaged in their care, but also feel like they have some sort of responsibility and autonomy over it as well in the choices. And I think like, all of this works into, what people are trying to go to, which is this remote therapeutic monitoring and building that. And the only way you get people to show up, because I think for remote therapeutic monitoring, you have to have them gain access to their HP app at least 14 times within the month, I think is the threshold, or 15. And so the only way you're going to do that is through measures like this, where you're getting some sort of gamification and some sort of like, like you're psychologically working on them as well, because that's as much of the rehab game is mental as it is physical, right? It's like it's just like weight loss. It's like, how to eat healthy. Like most people have a general idea. Now, some people's idea is very skewed, but they just generally know they need to eat less junk food and drink less sugary sodas and things like that, and they'll generally lose weight if they move more. People know that. The
I was
execution
thinking about this. I was thinking about this with my own injuries. I'm like, dude, I'm the fat guy who can't stop eating with certain injuries, like everyone's like, dude, you need to stop doing certain things and let your body heal and then start to slowly get back into it. And I just can't do it. And I'm like, it's no different. It's just the way that it's expressed.
Which is why I think that RTM has a lot of promise if executed correctly, because that solves the barrier of like, people coming one time. Like, I'll tell you this, like someone coming one time a week to physical therapy is not really going to get them better. You have to do a lot on your own, and you're going to have to do something about it. Otherwise, like you might get a reduction in pain. And sometimes that fools people, right? Like you reduce your pain and you're like, oh, I healed. But it's like, yeah, but you didn't like do anything else that's going to stop this from happening again immediately when you get back to the activity. And that's where people get into these recurrent pain cycles. And I think this is a good video for us to film today for Instagram, which is like, just because your pain went away and you rested doesn't mean you solved the problem. It just means you turned off the alarm. And so like, to me, that's kind of like the great thing about Duolingo is it's different, right? It's like, you can't fake yourself into like learning a language.
Yeah.
It's not like, oh, I stopped practicing Duolingo, but all of a sudden I know Spanish.
Yeah.
You don't know Spanish. And every time you go to try to talk to somebody, you feel awkward. It's kind of interesting because PT is a little bit of a different thing where any pain will kind of go away with rest. Now, there are certain types of pain like chronic low back pain that won't, but like an ankle sprain pain, it'll go away with rest. But does it mean that you're going to go right back to soccer or pickleball or even walking across the parking lot and sprain your ankle? Yeah, like you're still going to do that. Like you're going to have deficits. So you have to address those, and pain is not the only one, but it's hard. That's a hard thing to attack. But I think that this is like your idea here with this for a HEP app. This solves that, helps to address that problem. And it needs to be automated with AI, because a PT that has 40 or 50 or 60 active patients can't be texting people every day to do their stuff.
Well, so there's two more pieces to it. The other one is they gamify things even further. Like, have you ever used Duolingo?
Yeah, I have. Have I stuck with it? No. So have these methods worked well for me? No.
Well, so I think the second or the last point is probably the missing piece, but it's so gamified, dude. You're getting scoreboards popping up, badges popping up, XP points popping up. But I think what we could do for PT, you should get a badge for like a 20% increase in strength or something like that. Like your strength numbers going up should be a badge. Boom, you earned that. Badge for streaks. Achievement badge. Hey, ACL, you did your first squat, or you got back to running, or all these different little things in the journey, because it is such a journey that I think that could make it really cool. And there's a big opportunity. The other piece is like, if you are just starting out and you're really wondering how to get patients, you do need to do this manually, and that's how I think you could actually beat a lot of people out, because no one else is doing this yet, at least. And then the last piece is meaning. So attaching meaning to your goal, like you want to learn Spanish so that you can go travel and expand your reach. For us, and it's like at that eval, it should be like, tell me again why you want to get back to running. Like, is it to run? Oh, it's to go on runs with your kids. Oh, okay. Let's write that down on your thing. And every time you hit an achievement, hey, dude, you're one step closer. By the way, did you know you're one step closer to running with your kids pain free again? And that just makes it not feel like exercises. It makes it feel like something meaningful that you're going after, a actual goal that's going to change your life. And I think like we could get better at that, of like getting that story from people, but then constantly reminding them. Maybe we should, even on those high def, like the comeback stuff, we should highlight those. They didn't just come back; they came back to whatever they're trying to do.
Yep. Well, and the other thing that Duolingo does really well is they show you where you're at, like as in like they kind of rank you like, oh, beginner, moderate, higher. So like you also see the progress where it's like, oh, before I barely knew, or it's like, here's how many words you know.
Yeah.
It'll show you like, oh, 50 Spanish words. And then it's like, oh, 1,000 Spanish words. And so you start to see the progress. And so I think PT has all of those abilities. And same with like you said, opening up access. It's not just running with your kids, because like for me, mobility, for example, like let's say you have knee pain and you can't really walk that far. That same trip that you're trying to learn Spanish to go to Mazatlan or whatever, and go and see all these cool things, you have to have the physical capability as well. Like there's a language barrier and there's a physical barrier to travel. And so it opens up your ability on a daily basis to do things like, hey, like I want to go to the state fair. It's happening right now, but it requires me to stand for 2 hours, and I'm not going to be able to stand for 2 hours. And so being able to also, I think as a therapist, and this requires training to train PTs to think this way, but you have to also connect people's dots, because sometimes people are like, yeah, I want to be able to run a 5K, but it's like, if that 5K is not that important to this person, then they're not going to stick with it. But if you're like, tell me a little bit more about your life, and maybe they're like, yeah, I like to go and shop, like every weekend. That's kind of my hobby, is like shopping. But it's like, well, 5K, maybe not that important, but 5K is jogging, kind of close to walking. And if you're shopping, you're walking for a long time, how is that for you? Like, oh yeah, actually I don't go as much as I want to because of this. So that, like, you start to work on connecting those like reasons why. And all of this sounds like, like a PT podcast, but in business, this is churn rate, right? This is reducing cancellation and no-show rate. This is creating commitments so that people stick out a plan of care, which we know in business and in our business and in rehab and in general is that is successful business, is getting customers in, clients, and giving them a good service, making sure that they follow through and they get the result that they want, so that one, they tell their friends, you get that benefit, right? You get the word of mouth referrals, which are free referrals, which cuts your customer acquisition costs in half. If every person that you paid Google to get in brought another person with them, that effectively cuts your percentage in half. And so all of these things that you would be training your staff on are all things that end up improving your efficiency as a business and make you profitable versus not profitable, because if you're paying $200 a lead to get somebody into the door, but those people are only staying for 2 visits, you're net going to lose money on those. And so you've got to really do well at executing on the product. And I think like any person who's listening to this as a business can create this example for their business. It's not just rehab. Obviously, like we just extrapolated a concept of a gamification of a language learning app over to physical therapy. And this is really what we do all the time, which is like, look what other people are doing. And then how do we extrapolate this over to, or cross this over to PT or in my business, you could say. And I think that's a massively valuable thing to see, like who's had success in an industry, even with marketing or advertising. If you're not looking at other people's advertising and marketing and trying to replicate it in your own industry, then you're really missing, like someone's done hundreds of millions of dollars of research of psychology and consumer, like habits. And so if you don't use that information, that's silly. It's like, I like that thing with when, I think it was maybe Grant Cardone, who I don't love, but he had a smart idea where he was like, when I'm looking at buying a property, I just go and talk to a bunch of banks and show them the property, and they do all the diligence on whether it's a good investment or not, because if it's not a good investment, they're not going to finance it. Yeah. And so like I'm using their big, huge teams of thousands of people, tons of data, and a ton of money to help me figure out if my decision is a good decision.
Yeah. No, that's the thing is like, we may not use everything that they've done, but I think that there's aspects of it that anyone can consider. And again, if you're just starting out, there's so many little things from this that you can do to go the extra mile that will help you build your business. I think from there, at least our goal is like, how do we make this into a system? So it's not like, hey, did you remember to text your PT about their commitment? Hey, did you remember to text them about the meaning of this thing? It should just be built in, sure. Like every third visit, hey, you're one step closer to insert whatever you put in their EMR note of like their goal. Like, like that would be pretty cool. Stuff like that. And I think it's got to be close. Like I'm sure it's possible, especially with prompt. Like imagine if they checked in on the kiosk and it was like, like you're on a streak, you're on a winning streak or something like that.
I think those are all great ideas and great suggestion ideas. Cause like all of those things are fairly simple to work. It's just like, is it worth it for a company to do? I think it's a massive value add. And I've always told like RPTs, like number one way to differentiate yourself from the competition is like the day after an evaluation, text your patient and say like, hey, just want to check in and see how you're feeling. Like that's so easy because that person might be in pain from the evaluation. You've poked and prodded things. They might be a little more sore. They might be questioning, do I actually want to go through with this? Like just a simple text like that could go a long way. And so like, but that could just be automated because it doesn't mean that you didn't want to check in on, like a lot of people think about these like automated processes and it's like, oh, well that like defeats the purpose because like now it's not actually you reaching out, but it's like, it is. It's just like you're trying to scale your ability to do it because I'm sure every PT wishes they could text their patient the day after an eval every single time. But it's like with the way that the business works and the patients that are in there and like you've got patients the next day, it's like that's a hard thing to do and remember and do it consistently. And so the best things to do consistently, you just automate them. And now with like technology and AI and like even systems that you can like schedule, like even like social media posts, for example, it's like that's a hard thing to remember to do every single day, but you can like go into these apps and schedule out months of content in advance and it just goes out in there and posts it on your behalf. I don't think you have to hit the post button to make it like any more real than like
he doesn't care about us.
Exactly. I think the same thing is with that text, but I mean it kind of rolls perfectly into my topic of like AI and taking jobs and stuff, which is like that would have been a like patient care coordinator, like an extra role that a clinic would have added before to like, hey, go look through the schedule, see who's been here for 5 visits. Now, like, write those people down, text them all. Here's what you're going to text them. And that would have been a really lengthy process. Now with like, I wouldn't even call that AI, right? That's like just technology in general can do
Automation.
that.
Yeah.
But even like AI would be a layer on top of that, where it's like instead of a like an artificial like same message for everyone, that AI goes in, is able to read a note, it's able to customize the message to the person, it knows who the therapist is, so it signs their name, like those kind of things I think can really be beneficial. And I think a lot of people like look at that again as like a bad thing, but I don't know. I think it's a good thing in general, although I think once every business does it, it kind of takes the effect away. But that's the same thing for everything, right? Like imagine if every single service you interacted with like texts you and was like, that would get kind of annoying, right? I was like, oh, hey, like, hey, you're almost on a week streak of getting your groceries, like that kind of thing. It's
Yeah.
like I don't know that you would really want those. But I think the cool thing about this is, and I've got a webinar coming up next week talking about like using AI in business for efficiency. Like this is all about efficiency and reducing staff overhead or just freeing up staff to do other things. I was thinking about it because I went and did a grocery pickup. Have you done any grocery pickups? Like, or do you still go shop? Like how do you get your groceries these days?
No, I still shop. I don't buy that enough stuff to really make it worth it.
Yeah, that makes sense. So we did it yesterday just because we were limited on time. I think mostly Eliza likes to go and do shopping, and same with me. Like I'll still go to Costco and actually shop. But she did this grocery pickup, and it was interesting to think about because like I just pulled up to the spot. You say what number you're in, you hit the button, and literally as soon as the button was hit, her card was charged, and a guy came out within 30 seconds with all the groceries and like loaded them into the back of the truck, and we were out of there. It was like, wow, that position didn't exist. Like there was no grocery pickup before COVID. Like that was like people had to like, innovate because of COVID. Like people didn't want to shop. So it was like, how do I get people to shop at my store? And so like in this case, it's Kroger store, it's Fred Meyer. They do that. But like, I feel like the precursor to being able to do this and not inflate your staff count was like all of these really good systems for self-check, right? Like a lot of people are like, oh, the cashier is going away. This self-check's going to kill the cashier. It's like, no, there's still cashiers and there's still people overseeing the self-check. There's not as many, but now those same staff who used to like bag people's groceries, you effectively got people to bag their own groceries, which saves you $20 an hour on that employee who used to bag groceries. And now that person's out personalized shopping for people who want to shop online. So now you've been able to add a new service, a new revenue stream to your business, but maintain your same staff count. And that's where I think like a lot of this stuff goes is, to me, it's like from the business owner's perspective, it's like you can add new products and new services without having to rapidly expand your staff count. And so it's a lot easier to like trial things without having to invest a ton of money in doing it. Because like imagine a company like Fred Meyer that had to do that with a big expansion of the staff count. It'd be like, wow, that's going to be millions of dollars in payroll to just even trial this at a few locations.
And then it doesn't work, and you're like, I got to get rid of you now because it didn't work.
Exactly. And so like there's kind of two ways that it works out. And I think it's the first way, but basically it's like you either get a much more productive and interesting society where you get a bunch of like cool services like DoorDash that never existed, or we have a bunch of people sitting around wasting away because AI took their jobs. I think that's less likely because I think there's still going to be new menial jobs, but it's almost like people are working for technology right now. It's kind of like Uber, right? Like there are still drivers, but the drivers are working for the app and the app is like automating what their task is. Like imagine if PT was just like every time a staff member was sitting around, it was like, hey, by the way, this is the AI figures out like, hey, this is a task that needs to be done, assign. Oh, here's a task that needs to be done, assign. And so like I think there's like efficiency stuff that can happen with AI and staff. And I think it's just interesting because like you see this a lot of different places. Like I was trying to pull some examples, like banks, for example, when ATMs first came out, like people were like, oh, this is going to kill the bank teller job. But it's like, no, the bank teller still exists. It's just instead of like doing the menial tasks of like someone comes and asks for cash, which is like the most simple thing ever because all you're doing is like counting and then putting in that money. The ATM now does that, and now the bank tellers are more like small business specialists, loan advisors. They do fraud protection, like all of that kind of stuff. So you just like flipped it and used those people to do something more important. And I think like that is what I think the end of AI is, or the end game of what AI should be. But I think there's just a lot of people out there that are just fearful that it will take their jobs essentially.
Well, the way I look at that specifically is it enhances the customer's experience, right? Now your line, when you do have to talk to someone, isn't filled with people that all they need to do is get cash. You know, same with the grocery stores. Like if you want to just bag it yourself, then ideally there's less of a line there. Now I feel like it's more of a line because people are like, everyone wants to do that. But I think even in our industry in PT, there's a lot of things that we'd like to do that could enhance the patient's experience, but it's just like we don't have the people to do it.
Yeah.
So if there's AI that can fill those gaps, every experience ideally should just be getting way better overall. It's the same with help desk stuff, right? Do you want to wait on the phone for an hour, or do you want AI to just solve it for you?
Yeah, and you want to have a bunch of people that you have to pay to sit and work a help desk versus a virtual help desk like that. I mean, the quintessential one in physical therapy is like the patient only benefits from the AI recording technology that we use, right? Like it listens to every conversation, it takes it, transcribes it, puts it into the note. So now the therapist or doctor or dentist or whoever else in this, this is called over the counter, the practice playbook. It's like anybody in that scenario, it listens to you and you don't have to worry about typing the note. Because I was just in with a doctor the other day and it was like they were asking questions and they were just like, they would ask a question and then we would answer and then he would go silent and then just type for like 30 seconds. And I was like, whoa, this is awkward because I see our providers like engaging with their patients. And now it's like what could have been a 15-minute visit. And by the way, that probably makes the 15-minute visit way easier because you can actually get all of the information you want because you can have a conversation like we're having. But this doctor had to ask like one question, get the answer, type, ask a question. And so it was like, imagine that because doctors are complaining about 15-minute visits, but it's like, oh, I can't get enough of the information or the documentation is too much. But it's like, imagine if we eliminated that excuse. We eliminate your need for documentation because it just records every conversation and then just puts it in as is, right? Like the entire conversation is in there. That's a document, right? It's like all documented. And then even better, you have an AI chatbot that chats or like updates you on those patients, like a medical assistant, or you can ask it questions about that conversation. Because then you don't even have to go, like, even though it's paragraphs long, that's great. But like now your AI can go back and like, hey, remind me with that patient, what was happening? Like, and it's like you can just chat with it back. It just eliminates so much time. And even like this morning, I was writing a bunch of stuff and I have Whisper and I just use Whisper Flow to talk what I want to text. And everything's so much faster that now even when I have to like type a text message on my phone, it feels slow. Like everything is just more efficient and faster. And I don't know if that's a good thing net or a bad thing. I have a feeling that it's a good thing because I can get my job done way faster and spend more time with my kids and my family because I'm not like sitting here writing emails forever because I have an AI that maybe eventually, like I don't do this one yet, but will help me pre-write emails and then I can like voice dictate the rest of it and it does it perfectly. And then I can send stuff quickly. And so I think like net, like you're right. The customer and the worker benefit from this. And I know like it's kind of ironic because right now AI is like taking the majority of the jobs that it's taking is actually the people who are building the AI, right? The computer programmers. But again, like from what I hear, AI writes all the simple code. It doesn't solved the super complex problems yet. So it's like, at least you don't have to spend all your time like writing these like interface codes that like are basically like the skeleton code. You can spend more time like getting really good at solving complex coding problems. Now the problem is like the companies who are paying these people don't want to wait for them to get their skills up to the level of like solving these complex problems. So anyone who only knows how to provide base level coding is now gone because they're like, oh, AI can just do that base level coding. But also like naturally that kind of just weeds out a person who wasn't that interested in coding and didn't want to learn those complex coding skills and just maybe join program because it sounded like a good idea at the time. Like we see that all the time in industries where it's like, oh, this sounds like a good job. I'm just going to join this. Like tech, like, oh, people get paid a lot. I'm just going to go join. Like, you know, it's like, well, that person who's like kind of casually interested in getting a job is not going to make it. And that's how life is, right? It's like, just like the casual business owner who's just kind of like, oh yeah, opening a business, that sounds awesome. Create your own schedule, flexibility. I'm going to be crushing it. It's like, okay, that person's not going to survive in business. And like the market is going to weed them out. And same with like AI is the AI is going to weed out people who don't want to be better than AI.
Yeah. What's the quote? I didn't start a business because it's easy. I started it because I thought it was going to be easy.
Yeah, exactly, man. It's so funny because I've got an email in my inbox right now of someone who like wants to come and like figure out like, oh, is this something I want to do? It's like, I don't know. It's an interesting way to approach it because it's like if you're like coming to talk to me to figure out whether you want to do this, that's I like for some reason that just strikes me as like not the right like order of operations. It's like you've got to have a really large passion around doing this first. It shouldn't be like oh, I'm gonna go see how the clinic operates and see if I like this. I don't know. It's just like I got that email and I'm like, I don't know what problem this is gonna solve, for you, but sure.
Yeah. You got to be called to it. Like, I want to do this. Now I want you to tell me a little bit about like your thoughts on how I should. That's almost like, they always say, or wasn't it Elon? He's like, no one that was building the companies like PayPal or whatever was sitting around and asking the questions on Instagram of how they should do things. Like they're just going and doing. It's not just sitting around like, oh, I wonder maybe, oh, if only I get Gary Vee's answer. If only I get an answer from Elon, I'll finally know.
Yeah.
Yeah, you really just got to go do it. But with
that silver bullet syndrome, man, it's like everyone thinks that there's a silver bullet out there that someone has some sort of piece of information that is going to help them get to the top. But really, it's just the hard work.
Yeah. Back to AI though, I think people forget that a lot of industries and a lot of people are already doing more work than they want to be or should be, right? Like the AI taking away notes for our PTs, that just makes their job easier. It doesn't take away a job. Right? Like,
yeah. I think the fear is that like eventually the AI is basically reading all of our notes. So now it's going to understand exercise prescription really well.
And then just be able to listen.
But I think that also improves I think if a PT can administer that but use technology, it's like I use AI as a research assistant now, right? So it's like, hey, I have this problem. This is the thing. What's all the research on this? Pull up some protocols on this, right? Like give me the research, but then I have to make the strategic decision of what to do. But it's like, imagine if AI could help you with probabilities, for example, like, cause a lot of my treatment model is based on probabilities. And it's like, someone has low back pain. Here are the positive tests. Here's what their imaging looked like. Here's all the things they told me. And here's everything. And then it says 92% probability that it's this, 70% probability is this. Then it's like, okay, here's the general plan of attack for that. And then you have to customize it. And then you become the artist and not the scientist, because PT is an art and a science. But it's like, imagine if you had a lot of help on the science part, because God knows we have a lot of PTs out in the workforce. And this, again, I say PTs, but this is anyone in the medical force. We have really good ones who are very knowledgeable and super smart. This solves some of the need to be smart side, because it's like, oh, I have some help figuring stuff out. and I don't need to spend hours of my time doing research on, like the extensor mechanism, loading and like force vectors and angles and stuff like that. It's like I'm going to combine technology with a human brain and execution and make sure that this is really good. And I think you'd have a lot of people who don't fail rehab because PTs start out on the right path, treating in the right way, where they're like, oh, this person clearly has this and you should be doing this, but instead you were doing this for 6 months and wasted this person's time. I think you'd have a lot less of that out there. And it almost becomes like a PT mentor. It's like mentorship is one of the toughest things to scale in our company, one-on-one mentorship, because it's so hard to block time on a schedule, even though we do it, right? Like we do it at a higher clip than most PT clinics are willing to do it. And we would be a lot more efficient if we didn't, but we know it's such an important piece. But if we had like a very reliable AI PT tutor that helped PTs through at least the simple cases, and then you just had someone to bounce some ideas off of as well and like get some more of the hands-on skill, I think PTs really benefit. And I think PTs honestly already should be using AI tools, obviously in a HIPAA compliant way, to talk to AI and like mentally spar with like, hey, is this a good idea or not? Like, hey, here's the symptoms. Am I on the right track? Right? Like all of those things I think would be a great use of AI. And a lot of people are funny because like I heard like a patient the other day was like, yeah, I was literally in a doctor's office and I swear the doctor pulled up chat GPT. I'm like, good. I hope so. Cause like, God, if this guy's consulting extra sources, at least he's not just going like, oh, my brain is good enough. AI, there's no way AI is smarter than me. It's like, dude, use AI, pull up some research. What's the most likely thing? Hey, how long is this? Hey, can you show me the paper that I read on this thing? Or even like now, I don't know if you've seen that like ChatGPT is connecting to Gmail and Google Drive. So it's like, hey, help me pull up my protocol for ACL and tell me about week 6. Yep. It's like all it is an interface to data. And so it's just like pulling up case reports for a doctor. It's just now those case reports are through AI and it's like way faster because that is how some doctors, it's like you get kind of a rare disease. You're like, man, I'm gonna have to go read case reports on this rare disease. But it's like now AI can just pull up those case reports quickly and summarize them for you. And you don't even have to believe the summary. You could still just have it pull you up the document and you can read it yourself. But
and again, it's like, I think people assume that these jobs do a lot more than they actually do. Like sometimes I'm like, I went to the doctor the other day. They're like, yeah, send me your blood work. I'll review it and then we'll go over it. I'm like, no, you're not. You're not going to look over it. Like, yeah. I'll send it, but you're just not. You have all these patients. Like, I know you're not focusing on me at night or whatever. Like, you probably barely remember who I am. But with AI, you have a shot now. Like they can go above and beyond. So I think that is something to consider when we're adding this to different practices. I think a good idea too would be like we should build a chat bot that people could start at. Hey, I've got these injuries, blah, blah, blah. And then it kind of says what they recommend. Hey, if it's just something simple, like maybe it recommends like a couple exercises, come back, let me know how that went. And then it comes back, oh yeah, you definitely should book a visit. Like some type of interface there that tells them when they should come in. Because we talked to one guy, this guy asked us to come speak at his company and like give like the people there some exercises if they're in pain or whatever. And we're like, wait, you haven't even been to our clinic? And he's like, no, I use ChatGPT for my PT. And I was like, Jesus, dude. So it's like,
that's crazy.
I was like, is it working? He's like, sometimes it works. I'm like, dude, the problem with it is it's probably not going to suggest, yeah, you should probably go see someone. It's just going to like kind of pop out suggestions of what to do. So if it did, I think that would be a pretty cool.
Always the hard part is like when you're tied to it as a company and you worry about like the hallucinations or whatever, or even like the legal side of it where like this is not medical advice. I don't know. I feel like we need to change some laws in the United States as AI becomes smarter and be like, listen, if you're asking an AI chatbot for medical advice, you should just baseline know that this is not medical advice from a doctor. Like, I hate all these disclaimers because it's like this. If you ever read a disclaimer, it makes you kind of feel like an idiot because you're like, I know that this isn't medical advice, but I know some people think that it's good medical advice. But it's like you got to know that you got to take it with a grain of salt and figure out, make your own decision. Like, do I see a doctor or not? I think the problem with the culture of the U.S. is like just people are looking for people to blame and sue over bad advice. Like I understand like if a doctor is negligent, gives you bad advice and does something harmful to you, like you should be, like repaid for whatever damages you have that you've lost. But at the same time, it's like, don't go and ask ChatGPT for medical advice and like on a medication you take, and then you take it and you're allergic to it, but you didn't tell ChatGPT that you were allergic to this medication class, and then now all of a sudden you got a problem. It's like, don't be an idiot. It's like that. That's all of this kind of stuff. But that's the barrier to some of this technology is legal, and that's where like a lot of medical clinics have trepidation of including anything that has AI or like machine learning in it, is that there's liability associated with it. And so they're like, I don't want to touch it, which is, it's beneficial to the people who do want to touch it and who are more willing to go out on a limb and like incorporate this type of stuff into their businesses.
For sure.
That's all I had.
You got anything else? All right. Yeah, no, I think that's solid. Solid things to think about and put into practice.
That's the pod.